Bonjour everyone and welcome back to Farmers Corners FC, the only podcast in Australia who talks about French football and French football only. I am your host Jérémy Magan, and in today's episode we will analyze the second round in French Ligue 1, of course, quickly recap the transfer in the past week and touch on the French squad selected by Didier Deschamps midweek. 9 games were on this weekend, with the tie between Paris Saint-Germain and Lens rescheduled to September 10th to allow Paris to rest after a crazy couple of weeks in Lisbon, where they came really close to a first Champions League title. The start of the week is, again, the red cards, unfortunately. 5 were awarded in 9 games after the 3 that we saw last week. Altogether, the refs have given over 60 yellow cards already in 2 rounds. That's also the Farmers League. Alright, let's get to our recap, but first, music! Okay, we start with the first game of the weekend, who was on Friday night in France, Saturday morning here in Australia. Lyon was playing their first game in Ligue 1 and they were hosting the Dijon FCO at the Groupama Stadium in Lyon. The game was the occasion for Rudi Garcia, Lyon coach, to face his former assistant coach in Marseille, Stéphane Jobard, who now coaches the Dijon FCO. The main info before the game was Oussem Aouar, the Lyon very talented midfielder who just got his call in the French national team by Didier Deschamps, was unfortunately unable to play because he was infected by the COVID. So he will miss that game against Dijon, and unfortunately will also miss his first call-up with the French national team. As a result, the coronavirus are very much still present in France, unfortunately. The game was an easy victory for Lyon, right? 4-1 against Dijon. It didn't start the best way though for the Brown squad. Scheidler, the young striker for Dijon, was the first one to score. I guess against the tide of the game, really Lyon was dominating the game through and through, but on their very first shot on target, and their only shot on target in the first time actually, Scheidler was able to find the back of the net and win 1-0 for Dijon. Lyon took a bit of time to react, but then at the very end of the first half, in just no more than 6 minutes, they scored 3 goals. Depay scored his first penalty of the game before Lotoa, the defender from Lorient, scored an unfortunate own goal. And just a minute later, in the injury time of the first half, Depay with a beautiful combination, right foot, if you see what I mean, a little sombrero from the right foot, and then just buried it in the back of the net, gave a 2-goal leads to Lyon at halftime. The second half was just a little bit more of that Lyon domination. Rudi Garcia actually imposed hard pressure the whole game, and it certainly paid off. He kept imposing it until the final whistle despite the score, and Lyon was able to score their 4th goal at the 61st minute on penalty again, and Depay would sign his hat-trick with that second penalty of the night just after the hour mark. Lyon shot 25 times on Saturday morning, so that victory is definitely deserved for the Groupama Stadium side. After the game, Memphis Depay, who's linked with potential transfers overseas, has been interviewed, and he said something along the lines of, I might be on my way out. His exact words were, you have to think about your personal ambition too. Without European football, it's complicated. I am here for now. Very, very mysterious for Depay, these few words, and not I guess the best omen for his future at Olympique Lyonnais. The second game of the weekend was at Roazhon Park, with the Stade Rennais hosting Montpellier. The score was 2-1 for Rennes. The first goal, Le Talek for Montpellier scored an own goal to give the lead to Rennes, and then Camavinga, the young phenomenon, scored the second goal at the 77th minute. Montpellier was able to reduce the score only at the very end of the game at the 91st minute. 2 red cards again in this game, one for Mollet for Montpellier and one for Terrier for Rennes, and we'll quickly go back to that. That was Montpellier's first game of the season, after their game against Lyon last week was rescheduled because of the Champions League, obviously. And that game, that round 1 game, will actually happen on the 15th of September. Montpellier was lining up their new Swiss goalkeeper, Omlin, who did quite a bit of work to do against Rennes. Rennes dominated that game from the beginning to the end, and Montpellier just wasn't strong enough defensively and on the wings to prevent Rennes from creating a lot of occasions. At the 22nd minute, as I was saying, Le Tallec scored an own goal following a beautiful solo run, I guess a superb run by Rafinha on the right wing, but he wasn't really bothered. No one really came to put a foot in front of the ball, and he was able to run the ball all the way into the box, and then his cut back pass, unfortunately for Le Tallec, was put right into the back of his net. A few minutes later, Hunou, the striker for Rennes, was very close to score a second goal, should I say, and then a minute later again, a couple of occasions by Hunou and by Rafinha. The score could have been much more than 1-0 at halftime. Just before the halftime, things got a bit worse for Montpellier. Mollet got awarded a red card for a very high foot. At first, the referee gave a yellow card, but then looking at the VAR, he realized that Mollet's foot actually touched Mawasa's head, and no hesitation decided to show him the red card. The second half started better for Montpellier, although they were down to 10 men. They created a couple of chances after a shot by Savanier. Souquet saw the ball coming to him at the edge of the box, and his powerful left foot unfortunately landed on the post. A few minutes later, Rennes' response came on free kick when Rafinha hit the crossbar as well on a beautiful left free kick. Just before the 75th minute, Terrier was awarded a red card as well. If you look at the game live, the tackle looks a little bit dangerous. Maybe a yellow, maybe an orange card, maybe like a dark yellow card. But then looking at the VAR, it's definitely not a red card. That said, the referee was where he was, didn't hesitate, and gave a red card straight for Terrier. A minute later, Le Tallec almost leveled both teams with a header that just landed just wide of the goals. But Rennes wouldn't let that affect their form. And then at the 77 minutes, the young Eduardo Camavinga that we discussed before and who's going to play for the French national team in a couple of weeks, just had the ball on the left wing, played a quick 1-2 with Mawasa, and then found himself in the box. A couple of dribble, a nice drop of the shoulder, put himself on the left foot from a narrow angle, find the opposite side net. That's a beautiful goal for Camavinga after his assist last week, and he proves again his importance in the middle of Julien Stéphan's team. Montpellier was able to score a very late goal at the 91st minute. Gaëtan Laborde with his mask because he broke his nose, scored a beautiful header, but unfortunately it's just not enough for Montpellier, who loses for their first game of the season. This is the first win of the season for Rennes after their draw against Lille last week, and they're showing that they are going to be definitely contenders to stay in that European race this season. For the next game, we go to Strasbourg, Stade de la Méno, where Strasbourg was hosting OGC Nice on Saturday. Nice dominated most of that game. They ended up with 55% possession. Strasbourg could not put one shot on target, and the game was really, really uneven. You could see that Nice will definitely be playing the top roles by the end of the season, and Strasbourg might have to fight to avoid relegation until the very last game if they don't change what's happening. Nice just showed a lot of efficiency, right? They only shot twice, 2 on target, and both goals. Dolberg was the scorer twice. The first goal came on penalty just after half an hour play at the 37th minute exactly. Strasbourg just sort of couldn't clear the ball, struggled to pass the ball in that back four, and then a bad pass forced Kone, should I say, to tackle in his own box, and the penalty was awarded with no discussion. Dolberg was able to put that one in the back of the net, and during the second half, not much happened during the game. Really, you could just see that Nice was dominating. Schneiderlin, the former Manchester United and Everton player, was actually quite impressive in the midfield. His pass accuracy was second to none, and his game vision was great. We could also see Camara, the young fullback for Nice, very, very impactful. Shows that he's going to be something this season. The second goal for Nice arrived just before the hour mark. Gouiri, the left winger who came from Lyon for 8 million euros, just had enough space to sort of run inside the defense, inside the Strasbourg defense, then try and find Dolberg behind that defense. That through ball was a little bit deflected. Dolberg was still able to get to the ball first, and then he won his 1v1. Vieira wins his second game of the season, and Strasbourg loses their second game of the season. There's definitely some worries for the Thierry Laurey's side, and we'll see how they bounce back after the international break. We now go to Stade Auguste Delaune, where Stade de Reims was hosting Lille. Reims led a 2-goal lead slip last week against Monaco, and Lille won a point, lost to Rennes at home last week. This week, different story though. Lille was able to get their first win. They won against Stade de Reims thanks to a Jonathan Bamba goal at the 32nd minute. One of the three Jonathan playing up front for Lille with Jonathan Ikone and Jonathan David. The game was quite tactical, quite the game between Guillon and Galtier. Rennes was playing their two recruits up front, Jonathan David that we just discussed, and Barak Yilmaz were up front. And the first goal came from Yilmaz with his height. He was able to get his first assist, just passed the ball to Bemba, and Bemba from the left wing cut back, find himself from the corner of the box, caught Rajkovic, the Reims goalkeeper, off guard with a strong shot at the front post. That's the second goal in 2 games for Jonathan Bamba, who's having a cracking start of the season. It wasn't the best game through and through, like I said, very, very tactical. Lille were quite solid defensively, and Rennes just couldn't create any opportunity to bother Mike Maignan, the Lille goalkeeper, who will also enjoy going with France next week. Lille got more chances at the end of the game, but neither Yassici nor Weah, the young Weah, George Weah's son, were able to score for Lille. Rajkovic just couldn't be beaten towards the end of the game. That's a very good result for Lille. They are now with 4 points, having just a very good start. And after that draw at home last week, winning away would be something that Christophe Galtier would be very happy to celebrate. We go to Geoffroy Guichard, le Stade des Verts. Saint-Etienne was hosting Lorient for the round 2 of the season, which was round 1 for Saint-Etienne since they didn't play last week. They were supposed to face Marseille, but the game was postponed because of too many COVID cases in the Marseille squad. Lorient, in the meantime, won their first game at home 3-1 against Strasbourg. But this week was really about Saint-Etienne and their opener of the season. Monet Paquet, the offensive midfielder / forward, was back for Saint-Etienne after being out a whole year because of injury. But the story this week in France really was that Claude Puel, the coach of Saint-Etienne, sort of cleaned his squad, telling the likes of Wahib Kazri, Ryan Boudebouz, and Yann Mvila that he was not counting on them for 2020. Instead, he put the new recruits in the field. Neyu, who just came from Portugal in loan, who was impressive against Paris Saint-Germain in the cup final, and Aouchiche, the youngster who arrived from PSG, were in the starting lineup. The game started well for Saint-Etienne. They scored the first goal at the 20th minute. Amouma scored both goals during that game. The first goal was scored following a beautiful clearance by Jesse Moulin. Jesse Moulin, the goalkeeper from Saint-Etienne, shot off his arm power basically, threw the ball past the halfway line. A speedy counter-attack sort of ensued, and Amouma was able to conclude it with a beauty of a left shot from the edge of the box, right into the top left corner. There was only one shot on target for the away side, Lorient, and they also committed more than 20 fouls during that game, so not the best game for Lorient. Just at the beginning of the second half, 5 minutes into it, Hamouma found himself again at the edge of the box, and this time on his right foot was able to find the opposite side net. 2-0 for Saint-Etienne, who just were never bothered by Lorient, really. Lorient was not able to put any ball that had any consequences for Jesse Moulin. Instead, Saint-Etienne was definitely the most dangerous side, and that's just a great start of the season for Claude Puel and his boys, thinking that last year they were really criticized and they didn't do the season that you would expect from the Saint-Etienne side. Winning the first game at home is the best way to start. Next up is Metz against Monaco in Saint-Symphorien, the Metz Stadium. The home team lost, unfortunately, their first game against Monaco. Monaco was able to win after the draw last week, and Badia Chile, the young defender, was the one scoring once again. This was the first Metz game, as I said, because their game 1 versus Paris will happen on the 16th of September. Obviously, it was scheduled during the Champions League, so that's why it had been postponed. Metz was definitely not favorite against Monaco for their first game. Monaco, with their new coach Niko Kovac, are heavy favorite for the title even. So a game will always be hard, I guess, for Metz when they're facing that kind of team. The first and only goal came at the 22nd minute on a free kick that wasn't cleared properly by the Metz defense, and then Biadachile was able to just blast that ball in the goals. Ukija, the goalkeeper, unfortunately could not do anything. The rest of the game, I guess, wasn't, again, the best game, a proper Ligue 1 game if you want, not a lot of chances. To note, in the second half, Fofana was given a red card for Monaco. He was given a second yellow at the 47 minutes, so just at the beginning of the second half. Not really deserved if you see the images. The referee, went and checked the VAR, yet kept the yellow card for, I guess, Fofana showing his studs a little bit, but it was all ball. He didn't really touch the other player with his studs, so it looked like a bit of a severe red card. But anyway, Metz finished the game at 11 against 10. They were not able to take advantage of it. It was just a very good game by the Monaco goalkeeper, Lecomte, who saved Monaco 3 or 4 times, and when he couldn't save them, then the post was there for them. Metz, I think, shot 14 times, but only 4 were on target, unfortunately, and at the end of the game, they ended up having 55% of the possession. They could feel hard on by, but it's also all credit to Lecomte, who ensured that Niko Kovac can get his first win with Monaco. We go to Brittany for the next game, where Nantes was hosting Nimes. Nimes leads Ligue 1 before they go and play Nantes after their 4-0 victory against Brest, another Brittany team, last week. And Nantes just came out of that, I guess, very unexciting null draw home against Bordeaux for round 1. This time Nantes started the game properly. After 11 minutes, Girondins was able to score a header on a corner kick, and literally a minute later, Palois, the captain for Nantes, almost made it 2. Unfortunately, just missed it. Nantes just kept pushing and pushing. We didn't see the same Nimes that we saw during the first game. And just before the half-hour mark, Fabio, the left back, was brought down by Landry in the box. Louza didn't hesitate and converted that penalty, which brought Nantes a 2-0 lead that they kept until halftime. Just when the second half started, Louza, the goal scorer, was given a yellow card for a dangerous tackle. After looking at the VAR, the referee decided that actually it was a red card, so Nantes will finish with 10 men. Nimes was able to sort of take advantage of that. 8 minutes later, Ferrat, the right winger, cut back into the middle of the park. I think the goalkeeper Alban Lafont, the Nantes goalkeeper Lafont, probably anticipated a cross, couple of steps ahead of his line. Ferrat might have seen that and then just took his chance and scored a beautiful swerve left shot that dove in and touched the crossbar before finishing in the net. Unfortunately, Nimes wasn't able to score that second goal that could have leveled both teams. Nantes even took a second red at the 87th minute for Fabio for a second yellow card, but Nimes just couldn't score. They did dominate the game. Possession-wise, they finished with 66%. They recorded 35 crosses and 8 shots on target, but just weren't able to find the back of the net. Alban Lafont had a very good game, obviously, to stop seven shots on target, but Nîmes just wasn't as sharp and creative as they have been last week against Brest. We go to the Stade Raymond Kopa for our next game, where Angers was hosting Bordeaux. A week after winning in Dijon, Angers was full of ambition going into Bordeaux. Gasset, the coach for Bordeaux, charged after that famous goalless draw last week in Nantes that kickstarted the season in France. His team dominated the game. The best player for Angers was probably their goalkeeper, Bernardoni, who is a former Bordeaux man, belonged to the Girondins for the last 4 years, even though he played most of his game on loan for the past 4 years. He saved his team on a few occasions, but wasn't able to stop the 2 goals at the 25th and 27th minutes. 2 goals in 2 minutes for Bordeaux, where he couldn't do anything. The first goal was scored by Josh Majat, the former Sunderland man, and the assist came from off the head of Koscielny, so it was an English Premier League kind of goal, header by Koscielny and a volley by Josh Majat for the first goal. The second goal was scored by Basic, full of composure, found himself in the middle of the box by himself facing Bernardoni and was able to put his body the right position and score a nice little left foot on the side of Bernardoni. Bordeaux played well, very well. Last week, I think they had only 1 shot off target for the whole game, and this week they could have 5 in the first half only. So all credit to Gasset and to what he's doing to his team. Gasset is that kind of coach, like I was saying, who's able to just make the most of the player that he has. And one good example is Paul Bice. Paul Bice is a centre-back that was talked about a lot in the last few years and was quite strong and quite tall and is easily recognizable with his long hair in the centre-back. And then last season he didn't play a game for Bordeaux. Gasset decided to put him in next to Koscielny today, and with success, Bice actually had a very good game. So that's all we say about Gasset. He's always here to bring back players in the middle, in the center of the light, I guess, and to make them play their best football. That's the kind of coach that he is, and all good for Bordeaux to have somebody like that. He is not defeated yet. A draw last week and a win this season is a very good start for Bordeaux. The last game was in Brest, in Brittany. A lot of games played in the Western France this weekend. Brest was hosting Marseille. Brest was coming out a tough loss against Nimes 4-0 in the south of France last week, and hosting Marseille for the second game is definitely not the easiest way to bounce back from that 4-0 defeat. Marseille was a bit less strong than usual, though. I'm sure we discussed that last week. The COVID-19 hit the south of France quite hard. So in the Marseille side, Mandanda, Amavi, Lopez, and Rongier were affected by COVID-19, but they were, healed and recovered and were playing against Brest. But Alvaro, Bounassar, Payet, and the third goalkeeper, Ngapan Douet-Nbou, were not able to play because of COVID. So that was the Ligue 1 debut for Marseille this season, and their starter and new recruit Balerji was playing for the first time in the centre-back next to Chaleta Char. Brest very early took control of the game, which is a bit surprising for Marseille, who was definitely the favorite. The Marseille midfielder was just not as comfortable as we've seen them last season. Rongier wasn't on the starting lineup, he was on the bench. Strootman was taking his place in the midfield, and I think we could see that it was hard for Strootman and Camara and Sanson to sort of get along. So Marseille didn't play really good, but they were just actually very efficient. 2 shots on target in the first half resulted in 2 goals. Thauvin scored his special goal just before the 20th minute, coming off the right wing, cut back, putting himself on his left foot, and then from the edge of the box, trying to find the top left corner, which he did. Thauvin was definitely the man of the match against Brest. It was good to have him back. He's played only, I think, 20 minutes in the whole 2019-2020 season, and André Villas-Boas was saying that his best recruit of the off-season is definitely Florian Thauvin. Just a few minutes after his own goal at the 27th minute, he was at the beginning of the second goal assisted Chaleta Char by free kick a perfect ball in the box, and Charlie Thatcher was able to put his left foot in there to get past Lars Honor, the Brest goalkeeper. Nimes had a few occasions, but just weren't able to convert and had to wait the injury time of the first half to score, with Fèvre able to find the ball, inherit a ball, I guess, just inside the box and putting a powerful left foot right by the post that Mandanda couldn't do anything about. During the second half, and while Marseille was only winning 2-1, Charbonnier, the Brest striker, had a chance to score in front of empty goals after Mandanda missed the ball, but wasn't able to put that one in the nets. And unfortunately, it cost Brest probably the 1 point or the 3 points, because at the 80th minute, Marseille, again, very efficient, just took advantage of another free kick. This time, Thauvin found Charlie Thatcher on the head, another combination, Thauvin-Charlie Thatcher, and the header from Charlie Thatcher was just too powerful for Lars Honor to stop it. Charbonnier finally scored with a minute left in the game. He tucked the ball past Mandanda, but unfortunately it was a little bit too little too late. If you look at the statistics though, Brest will have regret. Marseille were able to hold out and get their first win of the season, but Brest had 60% possession. They made 40 crosses, which is a crazy number, 19 shots, but only 4 on target, which was as many as Marseille in 7 attempts. So I think that's what the team's gonna have to work, the Brest team, for in a couple of weeks, having that kind of possession and being able to shot 19 times at goal, but only targeting 4 is where the game needs to happen. That's the end of round 2. We're going to have a quick look at the ladder. Nice by themselves all the way at the top of the ladder, the only team that has won twice in the first 2 games, followed by Bordeaux, Rennes, Lille, Monaco and Nantes with a win and a draw. At the bottom of the ladder, Dijon, Strasbourg and Brest have lost their 2 games. Montpellier, Lens and Metz, who only played once, lost that game as well. It's only the beginning of the season, so the ladder doesn't mean much, but it's just to give you guys an idea. We won't have any game next week because it's the international break, and we're gonna come back to that. But the exciting game after the international break will be Marseille against Paris Saint-Germain, which is one of the games of the season every season. It's going to be a bit hard for Paris Saint-Germain. A few of their players are going to have a game with their international teams, and then on the 10th they are playing against Lens, and on the 13th they are playing against Marseille. It's going to be a tough rhythm to start with for the Paris Saint-Germain side. Quick word for the transfer and the Mercato and what happened since the last podcast. I guess there was a few transfers that need to be talked about, because I think they're going to be potentially difference maker this season. We're going to start, I guess, by the least important, and we're going to go to the most important. Monconduit, the experienced Amiens midfielder, is now playing for Lorient. I think it's a very good addition to the team for Lorient, the promoted side, to get an experienced Ligue 1 player like Monconduit. Panzo, the young Monaco player, has been transferred to Dijon, where he hoped that he's going to get a bit more playing time. Still within Ligue 1, Guirassy, the striker from Amiens, has been bought by Reims for 15 million euro, which looks like it's a bit of a high price to pay for Guirassy, but he's a young and quite energetic striker, so I think they have a lot of hope that he can compete against Niang for a spot on top of the attack for Rennes. He actually got in this weekend. He was on the sheet, but Rennes won without him and didn't need him to score to secure all 3 points. Another transfer that came from overseas, Caio Henrique from Atletico Madrid was bought by Monaco for 10 million euros. Quite curious to see what Henrique brings to Niko Kovac's side. And then a little transfer for maybe the football manager aficionados or people that care about smaller league. Chala, the Ecuadorian, was loaned to Dijon. He comes from Quito, the Ecuadorian side. I know some people on Twitter were quite excited to see this Ecuadorian football player coming to play France. Leading our league were Malang Sarr, the young left back from Nice, whose contract expired at the end of last season, signed for Chelsea. He was imitated by Thiago Silva from Paris Saint-Germain, whose contract was not extended by the capital, who's going to Chelsea as well. Loic Remy, the Lille striker, is going to Turkey, to Rizesport more specifically. And Casimir Ninga from Angers was also loaned in Turkey to Sivasspor. The last transfer, was for Marseille, and he came in during the game actually against Brest. It's Nagatomo, Yuto Nagatomo, the international Japanese left back, 33 years old, who's signing for free for Marseille. He used to play for Inter Milan and for Galatasaray. He is a very skillful left back, quite experimented. He's not playing for Galatasaray because of some obscure law rules, or should I say, of the amount of allowed foreign players playing. But yeah, it's a good signing for Marseille. He's not here to be in the starting lineup. He's going to be the cover to Jordan Amavi, but there was a spot missing there in the left back, and Marseille will be happy to have filled it up. A couple of the news within France. Olivier Piqueux, the former Angers sport director, I discussed him in the preview of the season, he was fired for severe fault, whatever he did in Angers. He's now the new president of the Caen team, which is in second division. Guingamp in second division as well has already fired their coach after 2 games, and Bazdarevich is now coming to take his spot and is going to be sitting on the bench from next week onwards. Adil Rami, the former Lille and Marseille player, has signed with Regina in the second league in Italy. And then just the word in France about what's going on with Lionel Messi. He didn't rock up to the COVID test, the pre-season COVID test from Barcelona. So he's trying to put pressure on Barcelona to leave them as soon as possible. But La Liga said that they won't agree for Messi to leave without the clause being paid. There's that clause in his contract that was discussed this week. And La Liga said, we have the contract and the clause is definitely in it. And Messi is not going to leave our league. And I guess in the meantime, have a bad impact on our TV rights or all the money that having a player like Messi brings to a league. They won't let him go without that clause being paid. So we'll see where that brings us. But that's definitely going to be quite the saga for the next couple of weeks or couple of months even. A quick word about what's going on in the next week and a half. So it's the international break. The League of Nations is going on. France will play against Sweden on the 5th of September and against Croatia on the 8th. That's going to be the first time France and Croatia play against each other since the World Cup final that France obviously won 4-2. The last team in that group is Portugal, which France will play in a month's time in Paris, the 10th of October, if I'm not mistaken. Deschamps unveiled his squad this week to the media. The surprise was to see Adrien Rabiot from Juventus back in the squad. If you don't know about the story, Rabiot, before the World Cup, refused the call to play with the French international squad. Too bad for him, he missed the World Cup. But he refused because he didn't want to be a substitute. Deschamps said that, it was sort of water under the bridge and that he had a good conversation with Rabiot and that he thought that Rabiot now was playing well and had grown up and that things were going to be different. Benzema was not called. The fact that Rabiot was called back, everyone in France were like, whoa, what about Benzema? If you're going to forgive Rabiot, why don't you forgive Benzema? No call for Benzema. The question was asked to Deschamps and Deschamps just sort of refused to answer and deflected the question. Aouar was called for the first time, but like I said, he got infected by COVID now, so he's not going to be part of those 2 games. But Fekir from Betis Séville was called instead. The Champions League winners, Coman, Pavard, and Tolisso, were not called in. They were resting after the UEFA Champions League. The next podcast will be about that French national squad. We'll do the podcast between the 2 games to discuss what France has done against Sweden and what they need to do to get results against Croatia. That's how the podcast ends. Thank you for following us, the Farmers Corners FC, the Australian podcast about French football and French football only. This was Jeremy Magan. Thank you again for listening to us, and we will talk again in a week. Thank you. Have a good week.